Hello friends, Stegman Pat here, and I love schemes. They sound really great to me, so schemy. But this scheme in particular is the one that will force energy retailers to give 3 hours of free electricity in the middle of the day. The idea, in theory, is to spread out peak demand by using all that excess solar power we generate. But let's be real, this midday free window isn't going to solve our power cost crisis by itself. So what's going on? Welcome to the Dirt Report, and if you are new, make sure to tap the subscribe button to be notified of any new videos. So let's get started by rolling the intro and see who's going to benefit from such a deal. Let me start with, I've got solar panels and a home battery, so I run my house with the two. And I even charge my EV on Sunshine for free already. This isn't for me, and if you're a homeowner, I still believe solar batteries are the way to go. But I think you may guess the cohort who would benefit from this. Some context is of course important. The new scheme announced this month will start next year in New South Wales, South Australia and Southeast Queensland. It requires all the energy retailers to offer every household 3 hours of zero-cost electricity during peak solar production, basically late morning to early afternoon. Now, the Federal Energy Minister Chris Bowen points out that when our rooftops are pumping out solar, wholesale power prices often go very cheap or even negative. So why not hang that savings to consumers? Well, unfortunately, when Mr. Chris Bowen made that announcement, there was only 1 hour where the actual price was negative. So, yeah. Now, to use this free power, customers need a smart meter and have to actually shift their usage to that midday slot, if you haven't figured that out yet. So you'd set your dishwasher, washing machine, EV charger, aircon, hot water system, any appliance to run during those 3 hours. Now, the government also argues the shift eases evening peaks when we don't have that much solar to go around and might even reduce network costs. After all, it is an incentive to do so because it's free. So on paper, free midday power sounds pretty awesome, especially for people without rooftop solar, like renters or apartment dwellers. In fact, advocates say it'll help renters who miss out on solar savings. So the federal scheme expressly covers those without solar panels, which is fair in its intent. But then what if you already have solar and a battery? Well, you already produce cheap daytime power on your roof, and if during those 3 hours you pull more from the grid, well, you're still covered. But in reality, this scheme is redundant for you unless there is cloud cover. We should also remember that new battery subsidies already assume you have solar panels, so you can't really get the battery discount without having solar or getting solar panels. So if you have a battery, you're probably got a solar, so it's not like you'll be charging during those 3 hours, but of course you can. So then what if you don't have solar? Well, to make the most of this, you have to actually shift those big chunks of usage to the midday. But realistically, how much heavy duty stuff can you run at once in 3 hours if you're not home during the week? Well, maybe a dishwasher, which is 1 to 2 kilowatt hours, a washing machine, maybe 2 to 3 kilowatt hours. That does help maybe if you're mining Bitcoin, but it's not like you can run everything at noon if you're not home. So unless you overhaul your schedule and stay home during the week or upgrade to a smart appliance, the average household won't use tens of kilowatt hours in 3 hours. So those savings end up pretty moderate at best. Lastly, yes, an EV owner can top up their car for free in that window, but most EV owners already own homes with solar and batteries. They're not your typical renters, so the biggest winners are a fairly niche group. Renters who work from home or otherwise are home midday and own an EV or big appliances. But let's not forget about another subset of people, retirees. They are generally home during those hours. They may not have the liquid cash to fork out for solar and batteries, and this really makes sense. So when you add up all these groups, you may have yourselves a moderately sized benefit that the government can put on adverts. In short, folks who can easily use lots of power midday with smart scheduling will save the most, but many cannot if you work Monday to Friday. But of course, the weekends will be great. We're not getting free power, we're getting more expensive power. Now, some critics like National Senator Matt Canavan warn that these freebies won't magically come from nowhere. Power companies will just hike rates outside that time window, and in fact, as the tariffs with midday off-peak periods already exist, I use them to charge my car, and many call this latest policy a populist nonsense, because households can often just switch plans to get similar deals. Maybe not free, but almost. And here's the kicker, energy retailers and networks aren't thrilled. No surprise there, of course, but industry bodies say the move was sprung on them without notice. They argue it's a complicated solution to a problem they were already solving with private deals. And the Australian Energy Council bluntly warned this could damage confidence and have unintended consequences, since similar free period plans are on the market. Meanwhile, retailers are in the business of making money. If they give away 3 hours, they sure as shit make up the cost at other times to put a smile on their shareholders' face. I mean, that's what happens when your government sells off public assets and the new owners don't want to spend a dime on upgrades and maintenance. Those coal-fired plants are probably still running Windows 95, so energy prices go brrr. Now, indeed, when power outside midday has to cover infrastructure and peaks, prices will likely stay high then. The government argues the shift should reduce those peaks, but it's not guaranteed. Okay, fair point though, 3 free hours is pretty darn cool, and if you can make the most of it, like having an EV charger go on at that time, you will save a couple of $100s. And look, I've seen some industry folks estimate running those big appliances or heating cooling midday would save you like $100 per month, and in my napkin mantha was around 50 to 100, so you're not going to be worse off. But listen, I'm a big proponent of rooftop solar and home batteries, and the cold hard truth is, even with this solar sharer, people with solar and batteries still do better. As the ACCC notes, homes with solar already pay about 18% less on average. Then you add batteries, that bill gets cut even further. In other words, solar battery is the ultimate free power system. So if you really want cheaper power for everyone, why not double down on what already works? Expanding subsidies and financing for home solar and storage makes sense. In fact, energy advocates and others who I spoke to at the Alt Energy event in Melbourne urged the government to broaden its cheaper home batteries program to include standalone batteries and even smart EV chargers. One commentator said, why don't we incentivize landlords to put those systems into their homes for some sort of benefit? So imagine if more renters and lower income families could get solar and battery through community schemes. That would democratize solar's benefits far more than a mandated tariff window. So the solar share policy is doable, but it's a minor tweak to what I think is a pretty huge problem. Wholesale midday solar being basically free just underlines that we have an abundance of clean energy. Great! What are we going to do with it? But there are still costs to deliver power wires, substations, balancing the grid, which this alone won't eliminate. And that's the part where the government has not put enough money in, let alone the fact that they sold all those assets and expected the free market to upgrade things. When's the last time the free market upgraded anything on your street? And of course, the schemes have long existed in the market, so mandating them is largely political. Friends, thank you very much for tuning into this Dirt Report. Drop your thoughts below. Can this midday free power plan make a dent in your budget? Let me know below. Or would you rather see more battery subsidies that are ending in December, or at least the end of December, so January? Hit like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe for more energy updates. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!